I'm about to be. Actually, I might be. All right, hello. Hello, everyone. Meteorologist Carly Smith is here. We've got your weather impact alert update coming live for you in just a few minutes. So stick around and thank you for joining. So what is the weather impact for? Ponding water and low visibility. Now, yes, the rain is not going to be all the time, every second of every day, but Tuesday and Wednesday, we do have a chance for tropical downpours. And with any of these downpours, there is going to be flooding possible. And so your needs, be prepared to drive safe, have the rain gear ready and handy just in case. We're going to break it all down, everything you need to know coming up. So listen closely, Kat. I see your comment. Hi there, Coastal Bend. Meteorologist Carly Smith is here. We're going to discuss the flooding potential that is here. There is a flood watch in place, so that is pretty important. You know, flood watches happen. We've had a flood advisory this morning for Rockport. So here's a look. First, we'll go here. Thanks again for joining. This is our rainfall totals map. So this is the rainfall that we have seen from Monday through Tuesday. So for those of you that haven't seen rain, maybe areas such as Robstown into northwestern Nueces County around Orange Grove, but even Mathis has picked up 1.31 inches of rain. But yeah, there are some spots that haven't seen rain, but most of the map is filled in, and this is considered 70% essentially at this point. Just looking at this map, 70% of the area has seen rain, so the coverage is up to 70%, just to throw that out there for you all. Ingleside has picked up the most rain. Rockport probably has picked up some high-end rainfall totals as well, but that gauge doesn't update very regularly. So Port Aransas has been around a ½ inch, Padre Island 2.37 inches. And so here's that flood watch. That is until 7 p.m. All of our flood advisories locally have been allowed to expire. When we zoom out, I know some people like to see what's happening across the whole Lone Star State. It's anywhere from San Angelo down through Corpus Christi. We are seeing the potential for flooding. And so back here closer to home, we're starting to see more of these little pop-up showers into portions of the brush country. So Freer, Benavides, Hebronville, south of Falfurrias, into Brooks County, into Kennedy County, all of these locations starting to see some rain. This has a lot to do with a trough that's actually set up to our north. We'll break that down in just a minute. But you can see there is the low that is rotating right around here. So here's our low rotating around, pretty much right here it looks like. So yes, there is still a flood advisory to our north, and so this flood advisory is for Palacio County, and that is going to be until, well, it's issued at 10:24, and it is until 12:30. So yes, the Victoria Crossroads region, the area between Corpus Christi and Houston is seeing more rain. We'll likely continue to see more rain just based on where this area of low pressure, we lost the low when I cleared things out, based on where this low sets up. Now this low drifts further south. That's going to put Corpus Christi in more of a target. But right now where it's sitting, we're not quite in the target. We're kind of in the dry spot. That rain is developing right around the low. But the low, what a low pressure essentially is it's air that's converging and then rising at the center. So we're going to get more storms to develop. But you can see that higher in rainfall, or the more steady rain, is coming where it's coming off the Gulf of Mexico. It is essentially tropical in nature. It's not a tropical system. It's not going to become a tropical system, no tropical depression, named tropical storm in play, but it is a tropical area of low pressure. And so it is tapping into that Gulf moisture and bringing it onshore and producing the rainfall more so on that northwestern or northeastern corner. So the right front quadrant is where you tend to see the most rain, and that's what we're seeing today. So that low is anticipated to continue to drift south over the next day or so. And so for a 3-day rainfall forecast, we are anticipating still an additional 3 to 6 inches along the coastline, 2 to 4 inches for much of the coastal bend, and 1 to 2 inches for areas into the brush country. Of course, higher end rainfall totals are going to be possible. Now this model, definitely overdoing it a bit, unfortunately. I hate to see that, but yeah, it is overdoing it a bit. I don't think we're going to be quite this much, but you do see those storms in the brush country. So Benavides, Freer, those are expected to pop up, and as the low kind of shifts and we get some help with daytime heating, so that is rising air, or something known as CAPE, convective available potential energy, heats up the surface, creates rising air, you get even more thunderstorms that pop up. We're going to see that fuel the atmosphere into this afternoon like we saw yesterday. Now there was more sunshine yesterday than we're seeing today, so we may not see quite as much CAPE, but regardless, we're in a very rich CAPE environment that will lead to more storms developing, stronger updrafts, and heavier downpours for those that do set up. As we continue into this afternoon, this is about 4 p.m., you can see areas along the coast may get a little bit of a break, but still pretty steady rainfall right along the coast. Stronger thunderstorms there from Freer to Benavides. Maybe Falfurrias will get in on a little bit of rain later on. Then we get a slight break overnight, and we do it all over again tomorrow. Now the low drifts further south tomorrow in this scenario, and that will put kind of Corpus Christi in more of a target, where Ingleside, Rockport were the target this morning. A low that's more south is going to put Corpus Christi, Kingsville in more of a target tomorrow morning. But it all depends on where that low sets up. So again, if it's too far north or too far in the Gulf of Mexico or even too far south, this will change pretty dramatically how much rain we end up seeing. But overall, the next 3 days, tropical downpours are going to be in the forecast. And when you get one of those downpours, they're very impactful. If you don't get one at all, then you're like, what a waste of a day, right? But these downpours, they limit visibility. They can produce 2, even 3 inches of rain within an hour. And so that's when they become dangerous. And that's why we have the flood watch in place. So that's also why we have our weather impact alert days. We've got 70% coverage. That is a decent amount of the coastal bend. We are anticipating seeing rain both today and tomorrow. We've already seen most of the rain right along the coast this morning. In fact, we can take a look at those rainfall totals since midnight. Yeah, Billy, if you have any rainfall totals, let me know. Rain is in Flower Bluff, nice rain off in Rockport, receiving good amounts of rain in Seadrift. So that was all reports sent here, so I really appreciate it. Hector, apparently you're maybe in Robstown, but here's where all the rain has been today since midnight. So we've been saying yesterday and this morning, most of the rain this morning will be right along the coast, and that's where it's been. I think Rockport is underreporting at that site. 0.63 seems not enough to me. But if it's further on the south side of town, so not so much in the Fulton region of Rockport, Fulton, then where I'm not sure exactly where the airport is off the top of my head, but that's probably one of the reasons why it's lower. But that Rockport gauge tends to underreport, in my opinion. This is, again, since midnight. So the first rainfall totals I showed you was including yesterday. This is now since midnight. Freer saw some of the highest in rainfall. There was a flood advisory earlier this morning, but that rain should have found a place to go now as we continue on. So yeah, leaving good amounts of rain in Seadrift. Traveling up toward Houston is where we're seeing a lot of that rain, especially if you're taking that southern route. Going up through well, none of the cities are going to show up. But yeah, if you're taking the more southern route, you're definitely going to be running into more rain and a flooding potential than the more northern routes to Houston today. So again, this is just through midnight. It's very concentrated along the coast. As we head into the afternoon, we will continue to see more rain developing inland as we speak. So again, here's the latest look at radar. We're still dealing with most of this rain. Let's see, Brett says Flower Bluff, so that's right along the coast, pouring rain. So yeah. Okay, I can take it. How much toilet paper am I gonna need? I mean, it depends on how much you need to use the bathroom and how quickly you'll go through it. I'm just kidding. Too much math involved in that. Anyway, here's a look right now. So all of this is going to slowly drift south, and then we're going to be in a little bit more of an uptick. But you see these spotty storms starting to take shape. As these grow, they are anticipated to have some really strong updrafts, and that will produce some really heavy rainfall. So Alice is about to get in on one of those. Portland kind of underproduced this morning. There was a flood advisory for Portland, and the storm fizzled out as it got off the water. But yeah, Driscoll about to get a nice heavy downpour as that storm is developing. So these are all developing isolated downpours. That's going to be the case throughout the afternoon. We're going to get these little pop-up storms. They're going to dump a bunch of rain, then they'll die out, and then a new one will develop. So it's kind of a popcorn weather forecast. The storm pops up, then it goes away, then another one pops up, then it goes away. And so you'll see just periodic or periods of heavy rainfall. Hopefully not leading to too much in the way of flooding, but if they sit over one area or start to train, so it's going to be these areas like in Palacios, that's where Bay City even, but that's where we have a flood advisory. We've got training storms coming off the Gulf, which is kind of like feeder bands in a tropical system, and that's so if one of those sets up more in our area, then that's really when we will have some of the flooding issues. Flash flood warnings, lots of flooding up near San Angelo, flood warnings in place. Del Rio's got a flash flood warning. That's where a lot of this is expected to be kind of at its worst. So we are anticipating, I went through this, 3 to 6 additional inches on the coastline, and this tropical downpour activity is expected to continue the next 2 days, but even 3 days. We just are anticipating less coverage on Thursday. So one of the reasons this trough with the stationary boundary that's set up to our north and the combination of this one to our south is really creating right from San Angelo to Laredo really a target zone for a lot of the rain to develop and then produce those heavy downpours. And so we've got 2 features that are working to keep us in a really unstable and unsettled weather pattern for the next 2 days. And so this is the pattern that's responsible for all of this rainfall. And as I mentioned, if that low is going to drift south. We're talking about why next. But as you see, because of that low that's hanging out in the Gulf of Mexico, most of the rain is going to be concentrated right along the coast. This is through Sunday. But we do get some rain a little bit further inland, especially toward the valley and so forth. So here's what we're looking at. So that low that's to our north is going to start moving. And the low over the Gulf of Mexico is drifting south, right? So that may limit some of our rain if it drifts south on the coast, or like if it's closer to Brownsville, we'll get more rain. If it stays offshore, or we're actually probably going to wind up with less rain. But then look what happens. We stay in this unstable weather pattern even on Friday, so we'll add more rain to the forecast on Friday. As this front moves through, it is going to dry us out, but what's going to happen is it's going to wring out the atmosphere because we have so much moisture in our sky, or in the atmosphere. In the air, there's a lot of moisture. We're close to the Gulf of Mexico. Moisture is being pulled up across this boundary. But you see those deep greens? That means our precipitable water, the water that's available to fall in the atmosphere, is really high, or able to precipitate or become a raindrop. And then when that falls, we get these really high rainfall totals. So as you can see, we start to lose. That is getting wrung out today and tomorrow, and then into Thursday and Friday, we start to lose some of those high-end precipitation or moisture numbers. And then they really go away as this front almost stalls there into Saturday and Sunday across the coastal bend. But notice we get the dry colors, the pink, the reds, those are dry colors, and that is dry air moving in behind this front, and that's going to drop our humidity. That's going to allow our overnight lows to possibly fall into the 60s, y'all. So that is something to look forward to. But mostly today, please just use caution. Stay safe on the roadways. We have this weather impact alert because it's not necessarily life-threatening weather unless you allow it to be, right? So if you're gonna drive really crazy in the rain, or not take it slow, or maybe just wait until the rain passes, because these tend to be, they will rain possibly for an hour, so you may not have time to wait, but you've got to drive slow, you've got to drive courteously, and don't be in a rush if you wind up in one of these tropical downpours. That's the reason for the alert, is there can be ponding on the road that can cause hydroplaning, and you can have all these issues that you don't anticipate because it's not life-threatening weather, like I said, unless you allow it to be. So yeah, please be safe. We're going to continue to have this pattern with us through Wednesday and even into Thursday and Friday, but we clear out and we're sunny heading into the weekend. Now, one more thing I do want to add when we're tracking the tropics. So this system does look very tropical in nature, but it is weak in the grand scheme of things. So it's not being monitored by the National Hurricane Center whatsoever anymore, but we do have 3 other areas in the tropics. There's one coming off the coast of Africa, one in the Atlantic, and one in the Caribbean. And it's the Caribbean one that we do need to keep an eye on, because this front, the timing of everything is going to be so key, and strength of everything. So the high pressure over Florida is what's going to steer the system toward the Yucatan Peninsula. But then as this front moves through, that's going to cause some tricks and trick plays on the forecast that we've got to be ready for. And so essentially, if the front weakens and kind of stalls and lifts north or dissipates and doesn't really impact the Gulf of Mexico much, it's going to free up some of that area for that system to possibly make it into the Bay of Campeche. As that high pressure grows, though, to our north, I'm not anticipating a threat to Texas, but if the low pressure associated with the cold front hangs out and times out at the right time, that could try to pull that energy toward the lower pressure, because essentially high pressures, tropical systems steer around areas of high pressure, and they are kind of drawn toward areas of low pressure, even though they are a region of low pressure within themselves. So it's just the way the atmosphere flows. So when you have these highs and lows in the mid and upper levels of the atmosphere, they have such a great influence that air flows into the low and it flows away from the highs. And that's how we figure out where tropical systems are going. And the strength of this front, how much it does or doesn't drop the pressure, essentially, is going to have a big play in the steering currents that will be taking this tropical system either into the Pacific or into the Bay of Campeche. So this is still Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, Saturday earliest. So this is showing us Sunday, September 8th. We could be having a system that starts to try to turn north into the Bay of Campeche. So yeah, that's going to do it. Yes, watch out for the kids crossing and getting off buses. Rita suggested that. That is great advice, especially if you get caught in one of those downpours. The timing, it's all about timing, you know. If your day times out perfectly, you may never even know it rained, and if it doesn't, then you're gonna be stuck, you know. Ruben, I'd love it if you post what city you live in. That's all you can do, is say it won't rain, it's not raining, and we don't know where you live. So anyway, thank you so much for watching. This is going to do it. We are starting to see more storms pop up. Lightning is something to keep in mind when thunder roars. Head indoors. That is something very important to say. Again, it's not dangerous weather until you allow it to be. If you're outside when there's thunder, you're allowing it to be dangerous, you know. So use some common sense, and it's not that bad. But we are going to see these thunderstorms. They're popping up. So get ready for the rain, y'all. I'm meteorologist Carly Smith. Have a terrific Tuesday, y'all.